this whole series of meetings has been under the kind of the umbrella of the lightning path. And, as I've worked to simplify and express the essence of the teaching, it has brought me back to this trio here of Dane Rudhyar, Jose Arguelles, and myself. And each of us has contributed an important piece for the synthesis that the lightning path represents. So it's a synthesis not only of the humanistic astrology of Rudhyar, but the Neo-Mayan teachings of Jose Arguelles and the sacred tzolkin calendar. And then there's myself, who, by bringing the calendar and the lunation cycle together, that's the piece that I've brought forth, is the synthesis of the two. And it's an area of synthesis that, even though they were close to having knowledge of it, neither Rudhyar nor Arguelles ever spoke about this aspect that I've discovered, essentially, this owing to the fractal nature of the tzolkin and of the lunation cycle. So with that umbrella, we go forth, and somehow, I don't know why it's not advancing here. There we go. So the lunation cycle, which Rudhyar explained initially in his 1972 book, The Lunation Cycle, this is the real foundation of so much of what the lightning path is about. It deals with fundamentally the relationship between the sun and the moon, and especially on the individual basis, the phase of the moon that each of us is born at. And so from that initial teaching of the lunation cycle, I understood that the cycle itself could be used at different scales. Now, this was before the term fractal was apparent in the culture, as far as I know. But that's essentially what the lunation cycle is. It's a fractal phenomenon, which means that the structure that it is shown here in the image on the right, this is the inner structure of the lunation cycle. That structure remains the same no matter what scale we're using it at. So in this instance, it's 29.5 days. If we're applying it to the cycle that relates Saturn to Uranus, it becomes 42, 43 years instead of 29.5 days, and so on. We can go to larger cycles, but this is the microcycle that we examine. So this is down to the most basic, fundamental, bipolar foundation of the lunation cycle. And as Rudhyar says, the relationship of the sun to the moon refers to the very essence of life. Now, in 72, inspired by Rudhyar's teachings, I instinctively felt that I had to create some kind of practice for myself, some form of lunation cycle attunement that would carry me forth in my explorations. And I came up with a simple lunation journal. And essentially what it meant was just to be maintaining conscious awareness of what the phase of the moon was at any given time, and journaling by that, with that awareness. And so I've on and off, mostly on for those last, since 1972, that's exactly what I've done. I've kept journals, and I have that collection now and I've digitized most of it, so it's a real it's really quite an incredible resource for me personally. So also included in Rudyard's lunation cycle teaching is a fractal use of the lunation cycle called, excuse me, the progressed lunation technique. Now, this takes the lunation cycle from a scale of 29 and a half days per cycle to 29 and a half years per cycle. And for this reason, because we're able to use it in this way, I've called it a key to all worlds. It really does open the door to studying all kinds of relationships, dynamics through the framework and structure of the lunation cycle. So it can be used to examine the cycle of relationship linking any pair of celestial bodies. This includes the relationship between the progressed sun and the progressed moon, and which is termed the progressed lunation. Now, this is a really powerful technique that you won't find anywhere but within the realm of humanistic astrology. This is part of what Rudyard, in his pioneering way, brought forth in the 70s. And essentially what it has us do is map out a person's lifetime based on the lunation cycle and its inner structure. So in this image here, we have at the top is the birth chart for Dwayne Rourke. So that's the basic mandala that we're working with. And below that is the progressed lunation cycle. So that's a 29 and a half year cycle. But what it's showing is the new moon before Rudyard's birth. And this is the fundamental starting point for any astrological exploration. It gives us a particular symbol from the zodiac. You know, we know, as it says there up at the new moon point under NMBB, we see Pisces 6, a parade of army officers in full dress. So from that was from the astrological mandala that Rudyard produced based on the Sabian symbols, which came forth earlier in the 20th century. And these are a group of 360 symbols, one for each degree of the zodiac. So I've included this image to have you understand the nature of the tools that we're working here and their relative placement. So this progressed lunation technique is actually a spiral unfolding from that initial mandalic reference point. And what we're doing is mapping the, essentially, most importantly, you know, the inner activities of our consciousness over these consecutive 29.5 year cycles. So, as I indicated, the new moon before Rudyard's birth, that would be at the very tip of the triangle here, at the base of coming down to a parade of army officers. And then we go to the next progressed new moon with Aries 6 degrees, a square with one of its sides brightly illumined. And we have a widow at an open grave for his third cycle. And then finally, holly and mistletoe reawaken old memories of Christmas. So this is the kind of the Sabian symbol stories around Rudyard's birth pattern. A less specific analysis would be to go and look just at the zodiacal qualities associated with each sector. So Pisces into Aries, Taurus, Gemini. But it's the Sabian symbols, which we have on the right here, which came out in 1974 or 5, I think. That was the Rudyard's version. There was a previous version with Mark Edmund Jones and Elsie Wheeler, who had brought through the original 360 Sabian symbols. So there are different volumes now available of interpretation of those 360 symbols. This is Rudyard's version. So there we are. We're looking into the lunation structure. And we see that what we have indicated here is Rudyard's birth phase. So his lunation birthday. He was 322 degrees, 29 minutes into the cycle that began, many days before. And so that's his most fundamental orientation point in his astrological world. So then his second lunation, and this is, if you're at all interested in this particular technique, what he advises is to study the life of someone that you are really inspired by, and get as much biographical detail as you can, and trace out that person's life according to this lunation structure. And I, of course, did that for Rudyard. I did it for Gandhi. I did it for Jimi Hendrix. I did it for myself. And it's really a powerful technique. I highly recommend taking the time to look into one's life through this tool. It's very, very revealing. And what it does is also, it sets your current phase of growth within a context, a meaningful context. So, for example, I'm personally over in the third quadrant in the disseminating part of my progressed lunation. So this is, I am consciously crafting presentations as part of my dissemination of the knowledge that really came together for me around my progressed full moon, which was back in the late 80s, early 90s. So that I'm consciously aware of that. I will be entering the last quarter phase in the next year or two, and I'll be consciously adapting myself to that change of phase. And characteristic of this particular part of the cycle is a crisis in consciousness. And it has to do with really sorting out who and what is vitally important to me and what can be let go of. So it's the letting go of non-essentials that really comes to the fore during that time. And on that basis, one proceeds then to vibrate in unison with only those qualities that are really aligned with our soul's growth. It's a time of search and research. And what you're researching is your own life. You're mining your own life for insight and relevance. And when we get to Rudyard's fourth lunation, he lived to be 90, was it 90 or 92? We see Rudyard met Arguelles right at what we call the progressed full moon. So Rudyard is out there shining and brightly, and along comes a younger Arguelles, and they become very close allies. And with Rudyard being the elder, much was transmitted to Arguelles through their relationship. And that was the early 70s. I came along in 1972, and that's when I discovered Rudyard, his work through the lunation cycle. And at that time, in that same year, 1972, that was a very significant year for me. That's when I encountered Arguelles for the first time. So Jose and Rudyard are meeting, and I'm encountering both of them through their teachings. and especially through Argueda's book Mandala, which was at the time was a major work coming forth into the collective. And it was very influential. It influenced Rudyard a lot, and he worked the notion of the mandala into his astrological teachings, and highly recommended that book for anyone wanting to do the same. And then the third image I have here on the right is a page from a oversized booklet called Deschooling, Deconditioning. And this was where there was an article by Rudyard and there was an article by Arguelles. And the one by Arguelles was my introduction to the myth of the feathered serpent. So, which, has become an overarching symbol in the whole of my mythic orientation to life. So, as you can see, 1972 for me was a very significant time. It was a time when Arguelles was radiating his teaching. I think in 1972 was when San Francisco discovered Dane Rudyard, and he was highly honored during that particular era with events and with the radio broadcasts and his poetry being shared, his visual artistry on display, and of course many seminars and teachings around his work. Rudyard died in 1985, which was another stellar year for me personally in studying the work of Arguelles, because his book Earth Ascending came out in 1985. I know one of his last acts was to give Rudyard a copy of the book. So that was slightly before Rudyard died. And we see that Rudyard died in the phase of the moon that he was born in, the balsamic release point, the release of the seed, or the formation of the seed, and then the release of the seed. And if you study Rudyard, you'll eventually come across his whole teachings around the seedhood. He called for people of like mind to come together, extract the essentials from their cultures, and bring them into synthesis and the formation of seed for future generations. And he certainly himself was an exemplar of that. So a page from my own analysis of my own life through this lens. And here we see our Earth Ascending just flamed up below there. That was in 1987. And we see there March, just prior to that. No, that was, I'm sorry, 1985, that Earth Ascending came on the scene. And then it was in March of 1986 that I had my my revelatory experience around the revelation of the lightning path. That was when I went from using the lunation cycle on a day-to-day basis to using the lunation cycle within the framework of the tzolkin. And that's where each moon cycle we have a new sector of the tzolkin grid opening up. So what has begun as an individual's effort is becoming more and more collective as I disseminate this knowledge, and as people find that they resonate with it, then it's growing, it's developing. So it's not just about Dwayne, it's about Dwayne and associates. So embodying the myth of the feathered serpent, that's how I'm framing it. This notion of the lightning path. The astrology is at the service of the mythology, in a sense, so that it's the astrology that helps us find a personal connection to this this really vast collective archetype, which is now returning once again to people's awareness, not just on a cultural level of, say, Mesoamerica, but on a global scale. This is a global mythological construct in this era. And there's your essential tools: the Lunation Cycle book, a personal lunation journal, and all that means is to sit down and get conscious about what the phase of the moon is, and keep your notes, keep your research, and so on gathered together. I use a 3-ring binder. Keep it all hanging together, and periodically review it. This is really important, is to looking back and checking in. And we also have then 1970 the Feathered Serpent coming on in 1972 through Rudyard Arguello's writings, and then the full male deal was Earth Ascending in 1985. That's what gives you the really overarching view of all of his work, certainly. And he wrote many, many books, but Earth Ascending is probably the most comprehensive of all. This is one image from the book. There are 50 more maps of consciousness like this as part of that book. And they begin the synthesis of tzolkin, I Ching, astrology, mythology. These are all woven together in the maps of consciousness that he brings forth. So what is the tzolkin? The tzolkin, also known as the sacred round or the divine calendar, is a highly revered calendrical system used by the ancient Mayan civilization. It is distinct from the more widely known Mayan long count calendar, which was used for historical dating and tracking longer periods of time, into the millions of years, in fact. The tzolkin calendar, on the other hand, had a divinatory role in Mayan society, where it played an essential part of Mayan religious and social life, deeply intertwined with their overall worldview. On the lightning path, the tzolkin is seen as a tool for spiritual growth and ascension, in which an individual moves through various stages of growth and development, gradually awakening to higher levels of consciousness and connection with the divine. Unlike the conventional 260-day cycle of the tzolkin, where each day represents a unique energy or aspect of the human experience, the lightning path references these same energies on a moon cycle by moon cycle basis. In other words, each tzolkin number glyph combination remains the focus of contemplation for the duration of one lunation cycle, 29.5 days. Each moon cycle thus offers a unique opportunity for learning, growth, and transformation, with specific lessons and challenges associated with each one. Overall, the tzolkin is seen as a powerful and transformative tool for spiritual growth and ascension, offering insights and guidance for those who seek to deepen their connection with the divine and unlock their highest potential. As viewed through the mythic lens of the lightning path, every person on the planet inhabits at birth an etheric body of light called a temple of birth. Latent in that light body are 7 levels of power and responsibility made accessible through a step-by-step reading of the numerical and figurative codes focused there by the astrology of the lightning path and by the mythology of the tzolkin. Now, a quote from Hunbat's Men, a Mayan elder who, in the 70s, especially, and 80s, even more so, was a major spokesman for the Maya and for the whole 2012 phenomenon. So this quote is from his book, Mayan Science and Religion. And the image is of the pyramid of Quetzalcoatl at Chichen Itza, where the serpent descends from the top of the pyramid down to the ginormous head at the base at the time of the spring and fall equinoxes. So this is a cosmic university in stone. As Hunbat says, the Mayan masters teach that we are the integration of the 7 powers of light, traveling in the form of the serpent, undulating eternally with movement and measure. In Mayan, the pyramid is called Ku, the root word for the sacred Hunab-Ku, the one giver of movement and measure. Thus, when we see the 7 triangles in Chichen Itza during the equinoxes, we are witnessing a demonstration of culture which pervades the atmosphere and stones of this sacred place. With respect and humility, we should kneel before the presence of Kukulkan, or Quetzalcoatl. By so doing, we will begin to awaken our cosmic consciousness, allowing Hunab-Ku to enter the sacred temples in our bodies. So this structure that we see here, I call it the transformation template. This is an attempt to map the mythological, astrological gift that comes to each of us just by being born. We're born into this matrix of potential. And it's by divining a particular temple of birth for each person that we're able to start fleshing out the mythological heritage that the astrology brings us into. Hunab-Ku to the Maya is the one giver of movement and measure. We generally think of it as the galactic center. Now, the concept of the lightning path temple of birth is a novel 21st century mythological construct facilitating the gradual download to individual seekers of energy and information emanating from the center of the Milky Way galaxy, or Hunab-Ku. Now, there came a time when I was able to bring Hunbat's men to Calgary, along with other elders, for an earth healing weekend out at the Stoney Indian Reserve. And we've spoken about this in previous presentations. When that was all done, Hunbat spent 3 or 4 days in Bragg Creek, where I lived. He was guest of some of my neighbors who had room for him. And Hunbats and I got together over at the little cabin that I was living in at the time. And we had this amazing conversation. And I shared with him as much as I could of the work that I was pioneering in my little cabin there in Bragg Creek, thousands of miles from the Maya, but I was receiving downloads of energy and information from the Mayan heritage. And where it really came to a focus was when I shared the image on the left with him. Hunbats jumped up, went over to his briefcase, pulled out a manuscript that he had, and flipped it open. And there were 13 circles arrayed in the form that we have right here. And he was amazed that I was giving the information that I was. And he said, people are not going to believe you. He said, you have to go south to Maya land, touch the stones, and come back with your stories. Then the people will believe you. And I realized in the months after that he was exactly right. And I set my intention And of course, I made 2 solo pilgrimages to the south that really put me in touch with the stones and gave me some of the stories that I've had, which have made it all much more real to people, not just an abstraction. Since that time, of course, the research has continued, and images like this have shown up on my screen. From ancient Sumer, we have I think we might call this the tree of life, and there are 13 florets, just as there are in the images above. That's not all. We go back to the Anunnaki, 4500 BC, a similar tree of life image with 13 florets. So we're onto something here, something very deep, something perennial. And I'm humbled by the depth some of this teaching takes me to, takes us to. "13 individuals." So one of the more recent tools I've added to the Lightning Path website is the table of new moons. Now, this table really facilitates a pretty straightforward process of determining what a person's temple of birth is, and also what is the correlate for the new moon before birth. And this is then referencing them both to the tzolkin. So as you see in the columns, column on the left is the date of the new moon. And then we have a number, which is one of 13 sectors of the tzolkin. And then on the right, we have the name of the glyph associated with that sector. So if we have a date in mind, say June 21st, 1944, we go to the Book of New Moons, and we scan down until we find the nearest previous new moon before our birth, or wherever we're looking for. So if we're looking for someone born June 21st, we come down, we find that on June 20th, 1944, there was a new moon. So we know the new moon before that person's birth. Now, the 7th moon of the series of 13 moons that birth aligns with is shown in red. And that in this instance is 7 Manik. So the new moon before birth is 6 Chimi. And then we have the temple of birth is 7 Manik. So this has given us the 2 fundamental orientation points for our mythological temple of birth. And this is a transformation template for that particular orientation. Now, I've just yesterday uploaded this image to the Lightning Path website, where it's available for free download. So what we would do in the instance here is put at the top in the 7th moon would be Manik, and then to the left in for the new moon before birth, we have 6 Kimi. We can go through and all the resources to know what the other glyphs in the array are. They're all on the website. Once you get into the Book of Electrum, for example, it'll give you an invocation of sovereignty that is based in all of these symbols that are arrayed for that particular temple. So it all becomes very apparent once you start working with the tools that are there. This is a full-blown graphic then based on that transformation template. And this was the one I did for Joanne Lind during our last presentation. So Temple of Birth is Thunder, same as mine. We were actually born in the same lunation cycle. So Temple of Thunder, Kawak at the 7th moon here. And the more specifically, the new moon before our birth was January 29th, 49 in 11 Akbal. So this is starting to flesh out the spiritual heritage that comes through the symbols. In this case, this template is here for Joanne. It's here for me. We each have our own individual way of filling in the life force into these hieroglyphic symbols. So here we have the website, and if you go specifically to the Lightning Path tab on the front page, that'll take you right into a wealth of resources for reference to any particular template. And this is typically what we have: an invocation of sovereignty on the left, keywords on the right. So these are for your contemplative pleasure. And if you really take it to heart, take your invocation to heart, then you're engaging in the poetry that comes with. I encourage people to write their own poetry around, inspired by the glyphs. Mine are just, one feeble attempt to, encompass the temple myself. But I encourage people to actively engage with the hieroglyphs. They're here to empower us. Reading and embodying the symbols of the sacred tzolkin calendar leads to concrete manifestation of the myth of the feathered serpent. That's really what we're up to with this work. And that's the kind of the essential nature of the journey here. So I was the first person to step on this particular path back in March 3rd, 1986. So up in the upper left-hand corner where that red dot was originally. And this is the map. This is the map of consciousness that comes through the tzolkin and its integration with the lunation cycle. So that very first sector, and this is me then doing as I suggested other people do. I brought my artistry to bear on the symbol that was up for the first step onto this tzolkin journey. It was at one imish, so one being a symbol or the number of unity, and imish being the primordial mother. So this, in fact, is the most primordial point on the whole of the tzolkin calendar. And this is my attempt to evoke that quality of the primordial origins, the primordial mother, and so on. That's one way of bringing the hieroglyphs to life through your artistry. So as often we do here on the lightning path, where are we now in our journey through this planetary matrix of vision? Well, this is the temple of the breath of spirit that we've been in for several moons now, and for more than a year. What are we? We're number 18 in terms of our presentations. So yeah, 18 lunations. And in particular, this is what we're entering into as 12 Manik. And we're coming out of 11 Kimi, which has been a very tough time for a lot of people. This the whole Israeli Palestine conflagration has been taken to another level, and we're having to face images of death and destruction, and through that, we bear witness and we move on. So from 11 Kimi into 12 Manik, there's a change of changing of the guard, let's say. And what can we do? What does 12 Manik have for us? Well, we have 12 Manik is embedded in the invocation of sovereignty for the whole of this 13 moon duration. So I'll just share that invocation, and we'll note that the second last line in the invocation refers specifically to the moon cycle that we're entering now. So, Temple of the Breath of Spirit, an invocation of sovereignty. I am a galactic conduit in communication with the divine. I am in resonance with the earth. I'm a spiritual warrior in the hall of mirrors. I define the lightning path of ascension and release. Centered in cosmic consciousness, I see the source of life as myself. Inspiration from unseen forces empowers my spirit. Dreams carry me deep into the mystery of my soul. That soul is alive with the pulse of cosmic potential. Passionately, I seek to manifest that potential. I surrender my will to the will of the Creator. To the great work, I dedicate myself. To the great work, I show the way. The last word. I'm giving that to myself once again, because I just really want to emphasize the importance of the journaling component of this particular practice. I can say unequivocally that if I had not had a journaling practice in place, I never would have received the download of the Mayan tzolkin calendar in relation to the lunation cycle. It was that ongoing 14 years of lunation journaling that preceded the moment of realization that all of those many moons were embedded in a larger structure, a larger mythological structure. I wouldn't have gotten that realization any other way, as far as I can see. So that's kind of like the driving engine behind the work. And it really is something that is practical in the sense that what we're doing is tracking a journey through the 4 seasons of Uranus. Because as it turns out that the lunation cycle connection to the tzolkin is that 260 lunation cycles, and 260 is the key number of the Mayan calendar. 260 lunation cycles is exactly 21 years, which is exactly 1/4 of the orbit of Uranus. So what we're doing is coming into resonance with that orbit of Uranus. This is a resonance phenomenon. Arguelles, in some of his later works, talks about the Uranian flux tube, which is a resonance highway, so to speak, between human being here on Earth and orbit of Uranus out in space. Now, this is a Uranian resonance phenomenon that we're dealing with. And as I say, the journaling component is of vital importance, because there will be moments when, we're dealing with Uranus. So Uranus is all about sudden transformation. There will be moments, if you adhere to this practice, there will be moments of opening in consciousness that can be overwhelming, can be disorienting, and can also result in a loss of opportunity, because we weren't ready to catch the download. We didn't have the form to bring that new knowledge, that new information to. So it comes and it's gone if we don't do something about catching it. And that's what the journaling does. It's there for you. It serves you in a very practical way. And it helps us keep our home base in order, let's say. And as we have below here, attunement equals empowerment. So attuning to that lunation cycle, which is in attunement to the orbit of Uranus, we are empowered in our creativity. It's just a natural part of the whole process. So once again, I encourage folks to create for yourself some form of journaling practice, and just do it. There we go.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Wow.
Wow. My head is spinning.
I must say, I put a lot of hours into this thing. And my head was spinning a lot too.
It shows. It's beautiful.
Gorgeous. Wow.
Thank you.
You started off with simplification, and seeing it now than seeing it a year ago, I really feel that simplification. And the word clarity comes to me now.
Great.
So I'm seeing it much more clearly, and it doesn't feel overwhelming.
Oh, good.
Being
Well,
that,
you've been with it every step of the way here, so.
yeah, that would have some to do with it.
Yeah.
But this presentation really sums it up. It's really, really, really very well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, that's like you want to know what I'm up to here? There it is. Yeah, very good.
So,
yeah.
When you say journaling, so that means writing every day, and it's writing about at the morning or at the evening? What is the nature? What is the nature of the writing?
Ah, good question.
All of the above.
Yeah.
You know, I can only speak from my own direct experience.
Yes.
And in a given week, you know, I've written notes to myself. I've caught a quote that's, yeah, that's a good quote. Gotta save that. I'm drawing images. I'm using colored pencils a lot, and that really adds layers to the whole experience and gives real depth to the memory. If there's a link to a website that I think is really important, I'll copy that. There's a quote or extended quote in a book. I'll do a photocopy, punch it, slide it into my 3-ring binder. You know, that's been the most practical. The journaling format, having a 3-ring binder. It's just really simple. So, and if there's an I'm breezing through my website. Oh, there's something I have to repair on the website, for example. I don't have time for it right now. I make a note, and then I use a square. I put an empty square beside it, and that signals, okay, here's uncompleted project, you know. So in my review, I come across that. Oh, I gotta get that done. I'll do that now. Then it goes to check mark, and I'm on to the next. I've managed to go back, say 20 moon cycles, and there's a checkbox waiting for me.
Yeah.
And I dive into, you know, doing whatever it was, and that opens up a whole raft of connections, you know. So out of that, I'm going to bring this forward to now because it resonates with what I'm into right now, or for that page of my presentation, for example, you know. So it's really it's a rich encounter with my own life, you know. That's what it is. And then if there's connection with others, of course, that, I mean, I do notes for every Zoom call, as you do. And so that's all part of the heritage, you know. And then wrapping it up in the presentations, to me, that's, I mean, I'm leaving my legacy. That's what I have in mind. You know, we're sharing it as a small group, but I'm entirely aware that the next step is this goes out to YouTube and to BitChute, and there's hundreds. Currently, there's 100 in the 300, 400, 500 max, but we're still in the first few months of it. You know, over the next 10 years, there could be 1,000 people have watched it. You know, so I've got those people in mind. You know, especially younger people who are not. You know, think about the astrology that we're using here. It's not your mainstream astrology. It's astrology aligned with the mythology, and not everybody's going to resonate with that. But for those who do, you know, it's going to be a live one. But I know with this whole notion of you talk about, Sophia, the Homo luminous, is that?
Yeah.
Homo spiritus, the noosphere, you know, the psi bank, all of these, these are all descriptors that are attempting to consolidate our understanding about this new global phenomenon that we're living through in the incipient stages. You know, this is early on, and we're on a, I mean, in terms of how many people have been exposed to this teaching, it's minimal, you know. But the potential here is that this could go on. You know, I mean, I pass the torch on to whoever, and we go into future generations. You know, all of that's kind of, I'm aware of that. So those days when my head's spinning and I just can't seem to get any more juice. It's like tomorrow I'll start fresh again, and it's those people way out front that I'm really looking to share this with. But I'm so grateful for you guys for grounding me in this present moment, having it be really vital and alive. And yeah, it's fantastic.
And then my other question was that how often do you review your journaling? Like I do journal and then I periodically go back and then it takes hours to look at it. It's quite a work, like as I hear from you. So I'm glad that I feel the same. That first of all, writing and then reviewing, and now what?
Well, the review itself will spark inspiration.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we have these themes that are underway. I mean, just look at the example of me. Over all those 14 years, I'm journaling, and it's just to the frame of reference of the lunation cycle. And then suddenly, kaboom, I realized this little serpent I've been on is embedded in this much larger structure. And even to this day now, I look at that, well, what other structure am I unconscious of? But it's only by me staying steady with the practice that I'll ever discover that. That's my understanding anyway. It's not just going to come out of nowhere and be caught and that's all there is to it. There's got to be some work. There's like this ascension requires that we be moving upwards, because at the same time there's something coming down. That's and there's your
the meeting point.
Yeah, which is in the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. So I am validated. I feel validated that I'm kind of in the same process, and it feels, as you say, feels sometimes grounded, but sometimes feels so spaced out.
Yeah. Well, I've spoken previously of Arthur Young, the inventor of the Bell helicopter.
Okay.
Who went from physics to metaphysics and became a very avid astrologer and an incessant journal keeper. And he really he credits his own practice of journaling with being an integral component of his discovery, I guess, of the helicopter, or his construction of, or invention of that device. And he would, like we do, go back into his journals, and he would inevitably find a piece that, when he brought it forward, was the piece he needed for the next step in the invention. So he's a real proponent of journaling. And I have a great autobiography by him that takes you right into his journals. And I had that one conversation with him I've spoken of before, and that was just great. We shared astrological information at the end of our conversation. We got each other's birth data. There's quite a bit of his work available on the internet, and the part that's most resonant with the practice here refers to his construct of the arc of consciousness. So it's really a profound synthesis that he came up with, and it accords with some of the ancient teachings. He certainly drew on deep ancestral roots, but he brought a lot of the more current understanding of physics quantum physics. He's got it all in there, and he's just such a. If you watch, there's a series of videos of him in some conference center with a really nice vibe, you know, big fireplace kind of thing and cushy chairs, and there's Arthur in full-on teaching mode, and there's a point in one of the videos where he's making this point about this and that, and he gets so impassioned, and the next thing he's chewing on his chalk as part of the point that he wants to make. he's just an incredible character, and just so passionate, and really I encourage exploration of his work. There'll be a point where it'll come into a presentation here in our group, I know, because he was on to something. The Arc of Consciousness, ARC, Arc of Consciousness. It was in the
Arc of Consciousness. Is that a book? Arc of Consciousness?
No,
or a presentation.
The book would be, there might be a book that title, but I'm not sure of that. The one that I encountered was The Reflexive Universe.
Okay.
That's the title.
Okay.
And there's another one, The Geometry of Thought, which is incredible, especially if you're getting involved in the geometry and astrology, and the geometry of the different tones of the tzolkin.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another one I'm trying to think of. Maybe I'll dig it up and have it.
Yeah.
Addition to the notes on the video. And on that note, if you guys, you know, I'm thinking ahead to these future generations. The more we can engage people now, the more that our presentations, because they are our presentations, the more they'll get out. You know, so the YouTube's very prone to assessing the strength of a website or of a presentation based on the feedback that people are getting. And I noticed that very seldom do we ever get a comment on our YouTube channel. So if we were to take it upon ourselves to just even make a short statement, Barbara's been doing that, and it really adds kind of another layer to that delivery. And if we can actually get a thread started, you know, there can be discussion. There can be full-on discussion right there. And I'd be willing to, you know, if questions showed up there or whatever, I'd go after him, see if I can give him an answer. And it'd just be another layer to the work, you know. That's,
That brings me to Uranus and your Uranus timeline.
Yeah.
And then you use the example of I saw Uranus in that new moon before birth that you showed. And it's come to me this past moon about Uranus being a group effort, and that it's the power of the group. And actually listening to James Burgess, he says that Uranus requires group effort. You can't get it alone. So I hear you saying, oh, requires the effort of the group. And that's right, what I find this beauty of showing up in the group assists me, I know. And I'm learning so much. Like now I see in that 12 Manik coming up at the 7 at the peak, it says inspiration from unseen forces empowers my spirit. And that's what I'm feeling now. And I got confirmation just a few days ago from finding out for the first time those nadi palm leaf readings from the Tamil people in southern India. And I'd never heard of it before.
No, I haven't done.
Fascinating. They have a collection of all these palm leaves with ancient Tamil writing
Right.
from the gurus of the past. There's 18 of them. And it's all based off of one's thumbprint.
Wow.
Yeah. And what blew me away, and I kind of go, okay, what is this unseen forces? My skeptics kind of been there, but once I saw this, I said, oh, okay. I get it. I get it. It had to shake me up, like how they discover, they go through, and if it's not, the answers are just yes and no from the person looking for the reading. And then they just turn the leaf till they come to your leaf. And it's your leaf in the sense that from these ancient writings of thousands of years ago, your actual name, your wife's name, your parents' names are there.
Wow.
So they have accessed the Akashic records. Like it is amazing. So that confirmed for me that yes, there are unseen forces that are there to, they feel benevolent, there to assist.
Right on.
So
Beautiful.
that just confirmed for me, and then it lines up with this now, this pyramid coming, or this new moon temple, 12 Monique, and they're right at the top of the temple is this the words from the invocation.
Okay.
I just go, wow, yep. So then I feel that resonance.
Nice.
The resonance highway. You're saying the Uranian resonance. Wow. Sudden transformation. That's what I felt in observing that. So. And they have some people have been open to put their findings on YouTube, so you can find it and watch people discover their palm leaf reading. So.
Well, if you sent me that link, I could embed that in the notes for this presentation or this session.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be interested in having a look at that. I was just earlier today or yesterday, I was thinking about not just the thumbprint, but the actual, all the prints as some kind of circuit board. And here you're talking about this. It's like, okay, we're on to something.
Yeah.
And as I was sharing with Steve, I only just realized that when it comes to lunation birthday, which is this most primordial integration of sun and moon in our birth chart, and we call it the lunation birthday, he and I are only 1 degree apart. So talk about being lunation buddies.
Yeah, that's conjunct. Yeah.
I think of it as the kind of the back-to-back conjunction. You know, we're covering a lot of bases here between the two of us. And there's instructions there for us if we wish to follow them.
Mhm.
So I think maybe you and I need to have a conversation in the next week or two and kind of see what wants to come through here.
Yeah, sounds good.
For that, great.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, just on that note, I was telling Steve about this work I've been doing around the journey of Neptune, which is in Pisces, and which is coming to the end of not only the Pisces sector, but the end of the whole zodiacal journey from Aries right through to Pisces. So we're in the seed zone, but I've come to call it the hot zone because it's really a lively area of convergence. And it's really, this formation of seed. And so I've been wanting to do a diagram that starts to explore this. And I thought, well, I need to make, I need to do a drawing. And so I've started this
Oh yeah.
drawing, and your name and your astrological signature, which is here, the sun, was the first thing I put on it, and that was right in the center line. You're born right in the very center of this graphic. Let's put it that way. Well, how about a coincidence? I wanted to bring this image together, and then I used this. I bought this probably 20 years ago. I've never used it, but I always felt that I would use it. Well, look how it comes together. It's exactly the same width as
Wow.
the foam core that I had cut out. I mean, that was a synchronistic moment. It was just fantastic.
The numbers come in. Wow.
And then, yeah, as we see below here, this is Aker in the Egyptian. We previously had this same sort of symbol as part of the new moon, the end of cycle, beginning of new cycle. You've got Janus there with the head looking both ways, and other cultures have done the same. It's an archetypal, universal archetypal energetic that is given different form depending on the culture. So once again, we're actually using universal principles. The mandala principle, the principle of cyclicity. These are our tools. So when we get to 12 Manik, it's about tools. It's about spiritual tools. And maybe keep that in mind as we go into the cycle.
Wow.
So yeah, at some point I'll bring that graphic that I just shared with you forward and show you how I'm exploring this upcoming era that we're in now. Well, we're in it now, and it's one of those things. Like you were talking about unseen forces. For this particular graphic, I had this nagging presence on my left side and down. So it would be like standing and having a dog down on the ground who wants your attention. And he's making all kinds of gestures and barking a little. And that's how it was. There was this presence that demanded my attention. And until and this has happened for me before. So until I acted on, taking the time to kind of bring that energetic forward into form, unless I did that, it was going to keep on nagging. So that's exactly where I got to was, okay, I'm going to do this graphic and I'm going to get these things mapped onto into one place and then start the exploration, the group exploration. So here we are, it's underway. Wow. And the nagging has gone away.
Yeah. You threw it a bone.
way back when, I've used the graphic many times. It's got the Hunab Ku up in the corner, and then there's the 13 moons down, and then there's the Buddha figure.
Mhm.
That was the same way, only it was up here. It was right in here, and it was just like I was walking around with a one of those headlamps on.
Mhm.
And again, it wasn't going away until I actually brought something into form.
Mm.
And yeah, it's just, I guess, the nature of the territory.
Mhm.
When you're
Yeah.
busting through new soil, there's work to be done. And
Yeah. And so this month we've got you said the changing of the guard. Hmm.
well, that's certainly the new moon moment. And,
Mhm.
but we're nearing the end of this lunar year, so
Mhm.
that in itself tells us something. It's that consolidation into the seed, and like this is a prime time, Sophia, for us to look back into our journals over the duration of this journey. Try and bring some of that forward into a synthesis, because that's what will carry forward into the Temple of the Eagles. And yeah, that to me, it looks big and broad for what we're going to be encountering. And it'll be growing forth, from the seed that comes together now and into the next cycle. So we're really in that seed portion, which you're so familiar with, being born at Aries or Pisces 30. And that's the archetypal end of cycle moment.
Yeah. Yeah. The ending in the new seed.
Mhm.
Yeah. Very exciting.
So going ahead, Shirley, regarding your presentation, are we just leaving that wide open? You don't have a date, or
I think at this
wouldn't be
point,
ready?
at this point, I think I'm just going to leave it wide open. And it's kind of ironic because through your presentation today, a few more ideas have popped up. So
Great, I'm glad to hear that.
it's growing, and there was another piece that it's like a missing piece that has come out of the presentation today that I'm going, oh, yeah, that will fit into what I was thinking of doing anyway, because I wanted to base my presentation around the Temple of Seeds, which is my birth temple, right?
Right.
But how it manifests in life, right? And try and get some connections. And so today you brought another level of it in for me. So I'm grateful. Thank you. It's really neat. Yeah. I really appreciate how you spoke about journaling, because well, I like to journal, but then I could spend all my day journaling and writing.
Yeah.
And I think I like how you hit that. So what I got out of what you spoke about was that, it'd be really neat to do little stickies as things come to me during the day. I don't have to lose that aha moment or that
Right
insight,
on.
because
Yeah.
I can just do a sticky, and
Yeah.
then I'm not, so okay, this is a tied in a work kind of thing I have to do. So I'm going to pay attention to that. It's a little easier. So that's a whole new, we changed my perspective on journaling, and that's something unexpectedly that it's nice, because I've been struggling with journaling and writing this and that down. So so the idea of stickies came to me through what you said. You just, because you make notes, right? Yes.
They're already waiting for you.
I use those with my music.
Right on.
So yeah, when I'm working, so that's wonderful. That's great. When you were talking about the pyramid, you had a slide that says you are the pyramid and the pyramid is you. And you were talking about how the energy comes down. You know what came to my mind was its relationship or not, maybe. What came to my mind was the Kundalini,
Absolutely.
because it does come
Yeah.
down through and it comes up and around, and it's like it's an awakening force.
That's exactly what Hunbats was talking about. The Maya call it Kultan Lilni.
That's close.
And he'll say, those guys over there, they got it from the Maya. And he could very well be right. You know?
Sometimes when I see these links come and and it to me it's like, okay, it's just this energy has been poofed, sent down. Here it is coming down to earth, and it will land. It envelops the earth, and then it's all drawn by whoever connects to it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's how I think of it, is that knowledge comes, and each place where it lands is tweaked a little bit differently. I noticed that the muses is in the the art and music and all do the same thing. Quite often you'll find, if you look across, all of a sudden the same topic will come up and present itself in many different places, and it's like, okay, that muse is talked to, that knowledge is there, it's time to know it, and it's come across like a whole bandwidth of, receptors. Yeah, and the Sumer one, the neon with the 13 florets, again, that connects to the Kabbalah.
Yeah.
I that's what it reminded me of. The diagram reminded me of the Kabbalah, but I'm not sure exactly if it was identical or not. But
so the Kabbalah tree of life, that's the one. Yeah.
I'd have to look at the Kabbalah again. I don't. It was just a structure impression.
Yeah, gotcha.
Definitely has the connection
to
it, and all these things are ancient knowledge, right? Now we need.
Yeah.
We need now. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a wonderful presentation. It gave me a whole nother level, and I still get overwhelmed by all the levels and the connections and all. They're becoming more clear how relate, and it's drawing me inward to explore more of this and see what happens. So yeah, so now I'm going to try a lunation journal that's just deep whatever happens in the week, and yeah, sometimes I go back and read things and that I journaled or written letters about years ago, and I wonder what it's for. But it's typically, there's always a message that I need to hear from that journal that is relevant.
Right on.
What's going on today? Did I learn, whether it's, did you learn this lesson? Is this repeating? Is there a different perspective? And sometimes I'm called to share it with somebody else. And yeah. I'll share you a picture of my tree of life I saw this morning. It's my willow out. Yeah, I'll post it on Facebook later.
Oh, good. Good.
Yeah. So yeah, these times is pretty neat. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shirley, you've reminded me of what I saw about a seed journal, and that those ideas that come in just to write that idea down, and not even to know what it's about, but just have it recorded, and then a person can let it go, and then it may be there to manifest into more or to activate it. But it was referred to as a seed journal when you were talking. I go, oh, I remember that. Just write the seeds down.
Nice.
That makes perfect sense, since it was the temple of seeds. It was my
Mhm.
yeah, very good.
I
Thank
love
you.
it.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
Mhm.
So looking ahead, I have no one registered to do a presentation. I at this point don't have any inspiration myself for a presentation. But do you guys have anything you want to for the next session? Just wondering if is there a presentation you'd like to deliver, or do you know? Yeah.
I haven't thought of anything. I was feeling like, where do we want to go with it? And what's come up is maybe diving into the lightning path itself in individual parts of it. I mean, we've worked on the overview to see the overview,
Mhm.
and how can we look at something specifically.
Mm. Well, as you say that, I'm thinking because so far we haven't really entered the I Ching realm of the lightning path,
No.
which kind of blows my mind because it's huge.
Mhm.
But the lunation birthday transposed into the I Ching realm ascribes to each of us a hexagram for that lunation birthday.
Okay.
So you and I, because our sun moon angle is exactly the same, pretty much, we share that same hexagram, which is 54, the marrying maiden, otherwise known as
54.
subordinate.
Mhm.
So there's a natural way of working with that cycle and the group energetic, which is to come into council and align ourselves to the mandala of the lunation cycle and to the corresponding hexagrams. So
Mhm.
we would have the circle. We might start conversation with the person born closest to new moon. They come up with something and they deliver it to the group, and then the next person responds, and then the next person responds, and we go around the circle.
Hmm.
And you're seeing into that person through the archetypal lens of the lunation cycle and the I Ching combined.
Mhm.
And when I first kind of discovered that connection, I spent the next year simply working out people's lunation birthday hexagram. And invariably, I had synchronistic encounters with each and every person I did that for. Either some person or something showed up in their life right at that juncture that was directly related to what the reading was, for that phase or whatever. It was just kind of like this magical year. And gradually it filtered into then what I call the lightning path. What is it? I can't remember the title now. The lightning path transformation template. So it's now we have the hexagrams aligning with the chakras, and each one of us has an individual chakra tree with the planets at different levels and so on. And that is one huge meditation on you know, the
Wow.
connections that we have through the I Ching.
Sounds like it, yes.
But all in its own time, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like you say, we've been working a lot with the context and trying to get that
Mm-hmm.
clear. And
Mm-hmm.
and now if we dive in, it could that's where I would tend to go, is right
Mhm.
into the lunation birthday hexagram and the circle, which we already do. You know, it's this sharing circle that comes out of these sessions.
Right, that brings the group in,
Yeah.
brings
Yeah.
the Uranus in.
Hmm.
Sounds good to me.
Great.
Exciting, yeah.
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 Okay, well, Steve and I are already committed to having a conversation here in the next week or so. So maybe
Yeah,
we'll kind of
chat about that.
something about that we can do together.
Mhm.
And with
Funny,
that,
excellent.
I'm seeing we're right up to 2 hours, which is our usual cutoff.
Yeah, yeah, 5 minutes to the eclipse.
Oh, there we go. Clipping away,
Yeah,
keeping the non-essentials.
yeah, or the new moon. Wow, that's pretty magical. Where you don't ordinarily see the new moon, but then you could see the moon
Mm-hmm.
inside the sun.
Mm,
That's pretty different.
yeah,
Yeah.
those are
Yeah.
rare moments indeed.
Mm-hmm.
It's too cloudy here today. I haven't been able to see anything.
Yeah, same.
I was telling Dwayne before we at the beginning that this whole Zoom call is for Manitoba, right? Covers the whole time of the eclipse up till, yeah, and it's ending soon within the next hour. So of vision, if I could see it. So that's pretty auspicious, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like good word.
Good old auspicious. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, once again, it's been a real pleasure to be with you guys, and
Yeah,
thank you so much. And
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Have a
that's
wonderful month.
yeah. That presentation is a keeper.
Awesome.
That was very clear. Very
Mm.
good.
well, thank you. I'll be
Yeah.
crunching it now as the movie and get it up there.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, guys.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Love you.
Thank you all.
Love you.
Yeah. Bye.
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 Bye.